I'm Susie Wolbe, and I'm the owner of Dr. Susie Wolbe Educational Services. And I grew up in Louisville, Kentucky, middle child. Now I live in Dallas, really outside of Dallas in Rowlett. And I'm married with second marriage, 5 kids between my husband and myself. 4 of those kids have spouses and 7 grandkids and counting. I was a principal for 14 years, teacher before that. And when I retired from that position, I knew I wasn't through. I wanted to still keep on working with kids and with their families, and I wanted to keep on making a difference. My educational services have really kind of morphed, and what I do at this point is I work on anything that is going to bring stress reduction techniques to families. I do it with kids, I do it with adults. Mindful schools, I do it within the school day in 15-minute vignettes, and you really teach the kids. You know, everybody said to a child, pay attention, but nobody ever taught them how. And they say, be kind, but you have to kind of teach them how that feels and to notice the emotions in their bodies. And the same thing is true for adults. Most of us didn't learn to notice what our bodies were doing when we were starting to feel that upset. And now I teach them that. And I might also teach them about study and organization skills, because ultimately that's also going to reduce their stress once they know how to do it. It can be such an easy fix, but somebody has to teach you. You don't get that by osmosis. For any school system that will let me, I do go in. I've had more success so far in the private schools and have done a number of grade levels and classes with that. I've done in the city of Allen for the adults. And then I've worked with families individually, just maybe a parent and the 2 children, or 2 parents, whatever their family makeup is. I've done that too. I work with families about 8 sessions. It can be longer, it could be shorter, because it needs to be tailored to them. And usually when they start, if they don't have any type of history with mindfulness, they're certainly skeptical. But that's okay. I was skeptical when I started. I just knew that I'd hit a negative spiral and I needed to do something to find my happiness again. And I think that's how they feel, you know, and it's, depending on the age of kids, why do I need to do this? But the truth is, you get some skills, and you can use those skills throughout your life. And for really young children or adults who bring themselves, they're fine because that's just their mindset. But the adolescents are maybe less open to it unless they're really experiencing difficulties. And even then, they don't want to admit it. So you give them those tools and then let them practice them. At least they have that knowledge, and it kind of floats through their minds. When they're ready to use it, they know how to use those tools. You know, when I'm starting to work with somebody for mindfulness, you typically have, in just about everybody who hasn't practiced it, they have that chattering mind that won't stop talking to them and is driving them crazy, or they can't sleep. And so the first thing I do is teach them either mindfulness of breath or mindful listening, because both of those, it's impossible for your brain to keep chattering at you if you are counting your breaths or if you are listing the sounds that you're making. It's impossible. And that also helps them fall back asleep at night. When they wake up in the middle of the night and you tell them, instead of tossing and turning and saying, I can't go to sleep, why can't I go to sleep? Instead, just very calmly say, sleep, sleep, just a few times, and they without a doubt, every single one of them, they call me the next day or they send an email. You're not going to believe what happened. I fell back asleep last night. And once they see that this part works, they're willing to listen to the rest of it. And even with kids, when you teach them just the brain science about the prefrontal cortex and the hippocampus and the amygdala, and set it off, and you kind of compare it to when the alarm system goes off at school, the fire alarm goes off at school. You leave your work, no matter what you're doing, it just stops. Well, when your alarm system goes off in your mind, when your amygdala goes off, you're not able to continue doing anything as well as you would normally do it. And so they learn that, oh, there really is a connection there. And for the adults, that they'll remember that they always heard 20 minutes after you get full is when the message finally gets to your brain. And so that's how they'll think, oh, it actually does make sense. And just that little bit of what's most practical and most useful to them, and they can notice the difference immediately, that's when they're willing to listen to the rest of it and let it make a difference in their lives. Once you have the knowledge, that foundation, it's amazing what you can do. And as a teacher has said to me before, Marcia Clark, if you know better, you can do better. But first you have to know. And like I said before, you don't get that by osmosis. You really need somebody to kind of teach you so that you can get there, I hate to say faster, but you get the basics faster. You can then use them faster, and it can make a difference faster. And I think every person in the world needs this information because it will change their lives, and it will certainly change the world. There are two things that really impact especially women, but can impact anybody. You have, first, the way the brain is made up, you have negative is kind of held in the brain like Velcro, and you have the positives that kind of slide off like Teflon. So that's that disadvantage to begin with. We are, and that's really good. That's how the caveman made it through the dinosaurs. You never knew when somebody was coming around the corner or they're going to hit you with a bigger club. So we needed to know that, and we still need that now, that reaction, that instinctive reaction if something bad is going to happen. But the truth is, we're not going to run out of food. Typically, there are more resources for it now. Things like that we don't have to be in that panic mode, in that fight or flight mode all the time. And with women, you also have the imposter syndrome, where you are hearing everything about, I just got lucky. I just happened to be at the right place at the right time. I can't believe they gave me this job. If they find out how much I don't know, they're going to want to take it back. And when that's the chatter that we're giving ourselves, at least once you know that exists, the Teflon and Velcro brain and the imposter syndrome, when you know that exists, you can literally say to yourself, oh, that's what that is. So just stop that. Yes, you can. Because you can. You can do anything, and you'd be able to do it if it was for your friend. So do it for yourself, because if we don't take care of ourselves first, we won't be in that position to take care of anybody else. So we need to learn how. It's not really just one person, but it is the person who always wants to learn more, is dedicated to making a difference, sharing that knowledge. It's not about, I want to learn more and then I'm going to go off on my own and be a gazillionaire. It's, I'm going to learn more and then share that wealth of knowledge and help change the world. And anybody who does that, it could be from Oprah Winfrey to Thich Nhat Hanh to Mother Teresa to you, to anybody. It's somebody who wants to change the world and is learning new things and new strategies to make that happen. So that attitude is what gets to me. I have a few. One would be my children, because I knew I was not in the marriage I wanted to be, and they were what got me through that. My second would have been being principal for 14 years of the school where I taught for 5, and the school just won my heart. And the third would just be not giving up when things got difficult. It doesn't have to be that hard. It really doesn't. Let somebody help you. Don't be afraid to admit that you don't know how or what. Somebody else is exactly like you on that end of the spectrum. It could be male, it could be female, it doesn't matter. It could be in this country, in another country. There are other people who have gone through the exact same things, and it doesn't have to be that hard. If you take a deep breath and just remember what's important to you and what you care about and what at the end of the day really, really matters, the rest of it will float away. It'll take care of itself, and this too will be fine. Everything will be fine. You know, I've been a very lucky person. I have not had major trauma in my life, but whatever upsets I've had, they've certainly been mine. And they've certainly been more upsetting than other things in my life. And I think that when I knew that I wanted to get divorced that first time, nobody is a little girl saying, oh, please, let me get married and have the white picket fence and then get divorced, because that'll be really fun. Nobody wants to do that. And when I went through a 4-year period where I had already been divorced and remarried, but I'd lost both of my parents, 2 of my children had gotten married, and I knew that I wanted to leave this job that I had loved for so long. And I went into such a negative spiral that I really didn't know myself anymore. And that's when I learned mindfulness. And my sister kept saying, is that for you or is that for your business? I'm not sure. Because I wasn't sure. Because I really didn't know if I believed it was going to help. But guess what? It helped hugely and has ended up giving me a new direction. And so that's part of, I can look back and say, thank you for those gifts of what I went through. It wasn't easy. I understand it wasn't as difficult as maybe somebody else's difficulties and trauma, but it was for me. It was mine. And I was able to come out on the other end. And as long as I can come out on the other end, I'm going to be fine. I stay centered by practicing my mindfulness. I used to wake up at 5:15 in the morning to get to my first student who wants to not miss a class. And when you have a child who doesn't want to miss a class, you want to be there for them at 7:30, no matter what. But I get up 5 o'clock. So I have at least 15 minutes in the morning to practice mindfulness. And then I also practice mindful minutes or mindfulness, whatever, 5 minutes, 10 minutes throughout the day. Anytime I'm getting upset, anytime I just need the quiet. And it might be mindfulness of breathing or mindful listening. It might be just feeling the silence around me. It might be mindful looking. It could be anything, but just tuning in to the gifts that are around me in my life. And that could be the rain. It could be the anything. It doesn't have to be something that was purchased. It's a gift, just a gift. And that's exactly how I stay centered, and appreciation for all of it. Finding that that space where you can just be you, yourself, and nothing else. It really does help all of those extras, that the baggage that builds up along the way. It kind of falls away, and you get to the center of what really matters. And it could be with swimming, it could be running, or it could just be sitting out in nature and looking. But when nothing else is kind of wiping out what else is in your brain, just so that you can breathe and take in what's around you. It's wonderful. With business, I would like to really help expand that message and get that message out to more people, because there just may never be enough people who know how you can de-stress and how your life can take on a whole different rainbow of colors just by letting some of that stress go. And then personally, I just want to travel more and more, because any place for me that is outside of the bubble, and the bubble for me is any place, if they look the same, talk the same, dress the same, and act the same, then I know they're lovely and I do want to meet them, but I also want to go where it's a whole different world and see that, because it broadens your perspective. And I think it was Steve Jobs who had said that the more you travel and the more you see how the world is in all different areas, that's really what's going to broaden your perspective and let you have a new view that expands your own world, even when you're at home. I would like my legacy to be that she did everything she could to improve somebody else's life with kindness and care, and she left no stone unturned in trying to do so. A power that has not historically been allowed to speak as loud as it could, and that women together have the same abilities as far as knowledge and power and strength, maybe not lifting the building, but there are things that women can accomplish, and they can accomplish that with caring and compassion and kindness that you just, I think, might see more often in women, or at least women be more often open to admitting it. And you put women together, and I'm pretty sure just about anything can be accomplished.